Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to give you a few pointers on preparing your Itslearning courses for migration to Canvas and just some FAQs related to that. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out. Very happy to help address those. And we also have some virtual sessions where you can join, ask questions, get some familiarity with what you need to do to prepare. We're offering those in April as well as in May, and even more of those if you have specific ones that you would like to have addressed. So the key thing to know is that in preparing your Itslearning courses for migration to Canvas, there are a couple of action items you need to do. The first thing is making sure you read through all of the details and the steps that you need to take that's been on our email as well as our guide. And it's also important that you recognize what content can be migrated and what content will not be migrated. So most of your content will be migrated from Itslearning into Canvas. And the way that we're going to accomplish this is through a tool that Itslearning and Canvas have developed called their Itslearning migration tool. So what that does is it exports all of our content and not all of it, but most of our content for the district. And then we put those on a server, and then BCSE Tech will pull that off the server and then place them into your Canvas sandbox courses. So just know that all of the content that we migrate from Itslearning will be stored in your sandbox course, not your other courses, just because we didn't want to clutter those and wanted to give you one common place to move your resources as needed. When that content is migrated, it's going to look a little different because these systems were not technically designed to be talking with each other. So when the content is migrated from Itslearning into Canvas, it almost has a read-only look to it, but it still maintains the folder structure of your folders. If you use Itslearning plans, then that automatically creates folders in your courses for you. So it will keep your folders in place and your subfolders within those folders. They're just going to be organized as modules versus folders when they're in Canvas, because that's kind of the Canvas equivalent. Your pages will export. Most of your content will. And I've listed that out on the email update, what content will move. So folders, pages, notes, links, files that you've uploaded like PDFs or readings and things like that. Technically, assignments will migrate over from Itslearning to Canvas, but with a caveat. So assignments, when they move from Itslearning to Canvas, they're not truly an assignment anymore. They almost look like a page, just because when we move it to Canvas, it loses the interactivity where the students can submit something that you would have in a traditional assignment tool. But they're still there. So all of your descriptions for the assignment, the name of the assignment, and content you've typed out minus a rubric will all transfer over. It just isn't really an assignment anymore. So it's still there as a helpful planning and reminder on what your assignment looked like for this day of a school year or with that unit. Things that will not move, really assignments to a degree, in that they're not assignments anymore. Learning paths and plans. Just know that if you have a learning path, you need to turn that back into a folder for it to be able to migrate over into Itslearning, and that's really into Canvas from Itslearning, and that's really easy to do. Itslearning plans will not move over, so the folders that are associated with the plan will, but the actual table where you type out all of your content, that will not migrate. Discussions from Itslearning will not migrate to Canvas, nor will tests. So technically, Itslearning tests can be migrated at the teacher level, but not with our district migration tool. And if you have more questions, my email here with all of the information really has most of that for you. But I wanted to cover some of that before I dig into the tutorial. This Canvas migration tool that I'm referencing is not something that all staff have the ability to do. So this is not something that you can or will be able to do yourself. It's only something that we can do through conversations with Itslearning and Canvas. So BCSE Tech is the only one that can start and kick off this process. In terms of deadlines, we need you to have your course content and follow the steps I'm about to do. Have your courses ready to go for this migration by June 1st, just because it's going to take some time for extracting all of this content because we have so many courses, so many teachers. We want to give ourselves a window of time there. So if there are any things that go awry, we have time to troubleshoot those. Technically, our access to Itslearning ends July 1st. So you will lose access to Itslearning July 1st, but you need to have your content all ready to go by June 1st. So it gives you a few days after the end of the school year to do that. And we'll have lots of trainings before then. So the key thing to know here is that what you need to do to prepare your Itslearning course for migration is to first map out what content you want to have migrated in the first place. And if you're thinking, I just said that there's some things that won't migrate. You don't have to delete things that won't migrate from folders. You can still keep them there. You can still keep your content in the way that you have it organized in those folders. Don't feel like you have to delete things to get ready for this. It just won't appear as something that's functional in Canvas when we migrate it. It might just show an error message if you have a test there and it doesn't match up with what Canvas has. But what you need to do is figure out what courses you want to have migrated, what content you want to have migrated, and start copying and organizing that content. So really, this applies to you if you've been in the district for a few years now. If you're a first-year teacher, lucky you, you only have the courses that you have right now that are going to be migrated. But if you've been here for a little while, for the time that we've had Itslearning, maybe you taught something a few years ago, but it's not on your course load this year, but you want to still have those resources because you spent time, energy, and effort on them, and you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. Or if I taught social studies, so if I was a social studies teacher and maybe I teach some things one year and different courses or electives the next, I don't want to lose that content. So really think back to the grade levels you've taught, the classes that you've taught, and map out what you want to have moved over so you don't lose any of it. So what you'll do is what you need to do is copy all of the content that you want to be migrated over into an active course for this current school year. So the 22-23 school year, it has to be in an active course. And I say that because this migration tool that Itslearning has developed with us basically looks at dates that we specify, and then it pulls the courses from there. And it can only go back so far. So the earliest that I can have the tool go back is to the start of the school year when we had all of our courses made. So basically what you'll need to do is add in, copy in all of the content you want exported into one of your current active courses for this school year. Now, if you are a teacher at the secondary level, especially, and you teach a course that's maybe only 9 weeks in duration, or it's a semester in duration, I have not technically archived any of those courses this year because I didn't want to have to go back and activate them again, or have you have to go back and find those content. So technically, you can put content in a course from last semester and it will be a part of this migration tool. So I was a little sneaky in doing that, but I was trying to think ahead and help you out. So you need to copy all of your content into an active course for this school year. And just know that if you're copying things from a course, you can always hide it so it doesn't distract your students. So I taught US history at the high school, but let's say I'm teaching 7th grade social studies now, but I don't want to lose my US history content from a few years ago. I'm going to copy all of those US history lessons into my active 7th grade social studies course for this year. So I have my course ready to go, but I am not going to keep those active in my course for my students. I'm just going to hide them from them. The migration tool will pull whatever is in an active course, even if it's content that you've hidden, it will still pull it. So the key thing is just putting it in that course to begin with. So now that I've talked your ear off on some of these background things, let's get into the actual steps itself. So this is a very familiar process to you. If you've been with the district for a while, what I'm going to do right now is exactly what you do when you copy in folders, resources, content that you have built from a previous school year into your fresh new course. So what I'm going to do is go to my courses menu, and to find all of my courses, to sift through and decide what I want to copy, I'm going to click all courses. And this will show me any and all of the courses that I am enrolled in. So by default, it always shows your active courses here. So I'm going to go through, I can look through and decide what I want to move, whatever I need to do. All right. And then if I actually want to find an archived course, so maybe one from a few years ago that I want to have copied over, I'm going to toggle to archived. And this is where I can find some of the content that, maybe I want to copy over, but it isn't an active course for me anymore. So I have a lot of courses here because I was troubleshooting during those weeks of e-learning, and it looks like I never remembered to unenroll myself from said courses. So I'm going to go until I get to a course that I can use that's archived. All right, so whenever I get to a course that I know I want to be able to use, and I want to copy some of this content into an active course because it has to be in an active course, what I will do is click on the course name, and then that takes me into that course. All right, there it is. So let's say that this is what I want to look at, the 7th grade social studies course, and I want to copy this, all of this content, all of these lessons into an active course for this school year. So what I'll do is I'll come to my course here, and the fastest way to copy all of this in mass is I just click this up here, this checkbox by type, selects everything, even the stuff within these folders. And what I'll do is click Action, Copy To, and then from here, I will select the course that I want it to be added to. Your archived courses will be denoted by parentheses and archived. And usually you have to scroll up to the top to see where your active courses are. So for me, I have several courses here. I'm just going to copy it into this sample course of mine. Puts it there. I can even put it in different folders if I want. So I can copy it. It may take a few minutes if you're copying like an entire course, like what I just did. It will let you know when it's finished. It'll have a little banner come across your screen. Okay, so that's the big thing. It's just copying it all into a course. Now, when I have moved all of this content into my active course for this school year, so remember it has to be a 22-23 active course. When I have moved it there, we're going to have a lot of stuff in this course. So what I might want to do is make a folder and name that folder just so it's easier for me to organize. I might want to name it as being for export, or maybe I'll just name it after that class. You'll know that it's still copying content because it'll have this little wheel spinning up here at the top. Maybe I'll do 17, 18. And I'll save it. All right. So, and that's where I can move all of the content that I am dumping into this course at the moment as it's still copying. Okay. So as it does that, maybe I don't want all of these things to be visible for my students. So what I could do, because this is some of the stuff that I've copied over, what I can do is click no, and that hides it from my students, but it's still there for me. Or I can go through and mass select a bunch of this and go to action and then deactivate. So that just hides it from my students, but it is still there. So I'm ready to go for this big migration of content. All right. So that is the big bit of advice for you. My recommendation is try to put it into one course if you can, just because that will selfishly speed some things up for us when we go through and we migrate this and put it in your sandbox. But if you have it in a couple of different courses, that's okay. Just make sure that they are active courses. If you have questions, please let us know. We do have some training sessions coming up where you can ask questions about this and get prepared for it. Those dates are on the document where this video is linked, but that's on April 13th, April 25th, May 10th, and May 16th. Just know that you need to have all of this done by June 1st, because we're going to start that right away and make your content over into Canvas. So